Hello, my girl.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
This is our first time, or technically our second time, doing this. We tried to do this once before, and we had a little bit of an audio issue, so we've upgraded our microphones and turned off our ringers. Ciara Jacobs. Well, we tried this once before, but for whatever reason, we were getting some bad, like, what sounded like echo, but wasn't really echo. It was like a digital echo of some sort. And we upgraded our microphones, we upgraded everything, and we're back at it.
Yeah.
So what we want to do kind of is the same thing we did last time. I just want to talk about our relationship and then kind of discuss what our podcast is going to be about, and really just discuss what makes, from our view, a very successful marriage.
Okay.
And every now and then, people might hear something from next door. These microphones should cut it all out because they, like I said, they're a big upgrade. But next door, we do have a spa, and they're after hours right now. But we may still hear them cleaning up and playing some music over there.
Okay.
Typically plays late in the night anyway. It's very relaxing.
Yeah.
But I really want to talk about what you and I would consider to make a successful marriage, and kind of starting off letting people know our relationship history and kind of, how we met and our relationship, leading up to this moment. And, you know that just as well as I do. So I kind of want you to go ahead and take that away.
Okay. Where should I start? So he drove 7 hours for our first date. I guess I'll mention that first. We met online. We met on Christian Mingle. So, that's really where it started.
We had both had a couple of online dates before that, right?
Yeah.
Before we met each other. We should probably add in there that you and I specifically have never been interested in dating around.
Oh, no. No. I just kind of, like, how it started for me was, something just, like, maybe it was God, I don't know. But, like, something was just like, you should get on Christian Mingle. And I was like, okay.
Sure. Faux show.
And, I made a profile, and like the first couple of guys that I talked to, like, we didn't have any face to face. It was all through messages. So like both of them ended up ghosting me, and I was like, okay. And then you messaged me, and I was like, kind of, okay, this guy's messaging me. He's in Missouri this time.
Because doesn't it like lead with a photo of the person and then like their location?
I think so, yeah. I think that's how it was. But I just remember you messaging me, how's the weather in Oklahoma? And it kind of threw me off because my dad is a meteorologist. And so I was like, does he know my dad? Like,
I feel like how's the weather in Oklahoma is a pretty normal question.
I'm a very overthinker of a person, and so my brain just went there, and I was like, well, it's kind of crazy, and we got tornadoes.
You guys keep them on leashes like pets here.
Right. And then it just kind of went from there. It is crazy to me that you drove 7 hours after getting off a 12-hour shift.
Yeah.
And then after our date, you drove back, and then in the morning you had another 12-hour shift.
Well, what it even kind of goes, and sorry to just brag on myself a little bit here, but I was a private in the Army, and so it wasn't just a 12-hour shift. It was, I had to get up for PT, I had to do PT, I had to go in for my 12-hour gate guard shift, and then I snuck, honestly, because I wasn't supposed to be, I snuck over to Oklahoma for our first date, and then I went back and slept in my car on the way back, but then got back and did PT all again. So just, I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but I really wanted that first date.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, it was 7 hours, but like I had a long way like there thinking, oh my gosh, this better go well. Or there's a long way back to think about what I did wrong.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm just going to say this. Whenever I met you at the door, like, I knew that you and I were going to be together for a long time.
Really?
Because, oh my gosh, I'm going to get emotional about this. I'm sorry. um, I just like I saw your. It's one of those things that you just know. There's nothing really. I can't really explain it other than I just knew that you and I were gonna work out. Um, Plus, like nobody's ever driven 7 hours after working a 12-hour shift.
Maybe no one should as well. I'm gonna say that maybe that was a little too desperate, but I am glad that it worked out. You just seemed really sweet. We talked for a month,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it wasn't like, oh, we met and the next day I'm driving 7 hours to come and physically see you.
Yeah.
Like we'd actually chatted back and forth for a month, and we knew that we were kind of into each other, and we wanted to kind of test the waters in person.
Yeah,
right?
I was so scared. I was like,
You're so cute.
we were messaging, and I gotta say this, like, I was like, we can see each other after like a year of messaging.
Right.
I
Well, no, what you said was
I
we can. I asked you when we could get on a phone call
Oh,
finally, and when can we jump on a video chat? And you said, well, maybe after a year of talking. And I'm like, we may not go anywhere. Like, cause if it was honestly gonna take a year, I don't know if I could have like kept pursuing. Like that was a lot.
Well, and like there were people that were like, "Oh my gosh, don't online date because like you could get catfished and like people are sketchy and yada yada yada." And so that put a lot of fear in my brain. Like, "Oh my gosh, what if he's some creep?" Like, But I'm glad.
I absolutely could have been.
Glad you're not a creep.
I drove 7 hours to come see you and then kidnap you from your family. I remember when your stepdad opened the door, and you're still a little girl,
Yeah.
but you were like 105 pounds soaking wet, and just this cute little thing with your hands all crossed, and you looked up at me with those pretty blue eyes, and you're just like, "Hi," and I was like, "Hi."
Yeah.
Try to get that Flynn Rider. Hi,
Hi. Yeah.
Flynn Rider. Yeah. But yeah. So you can continue with the story, I guess.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, our first date was a day of fun. We went to laser tag, we saw a movie, it was Star Wars. It was episode 7, The Force Awakens. And um yeah, it really made my day how much fun we had, and just
Well, the fact that I took you to go do laser tag and you were cool with it, actually more than cool with it, you loved it. I am so glad, because if I would have taken you on our first date and you wanted to go like out to a bar or something like that, or you wanted to, I don't know, go clubbing, I don't know, like something that would have been, a red flag. I had a 7 hour drive back to think about, man, that was a lot of wasted time, but it wasn't. Nothing felt like a wasted time, and here we are 8 years later. And every time I look at you, I can't be more proud of the decisions that we've made leading up to this moment. You know?
emotional.
Well, we have a son, and he's a year and a half. And I tried to say this earlier. He's a year and a half old. He's a year and a half old. Is that how you say it? Why does that sound wrong to me?
Yeah.
But I look at you two and I just think, man, there's nothing in the world that I would change.
Yeah.
We're working on multiple different businesses. We have been able to be independent from a employer for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
We've been home out of the military for going on 5 years. And we have finally I think we've gotten to a place where I don't think I've ever dreamed of being in such a good position.
Yeah.
And a big part of that, I think, is just because of our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You are a teammate above teammates. You have never once stopped and said, Rob, I don't trust you. You can't lead anymore. You just always, you've been emotional all day. Just for everybody to know, Ciara has had an emotional day today. So it's not just the words I'm saying. It's just that she has had a bit of a day.
Yeah, it's been a day. It's been one of those exhausting mom days, but I'll get through it.
And so just thank you.
Yeah.
I think that is, maybe the first thing I want to point out about successful relationships is one of you is probably more of a leader and the other one is a supporter. And that is not to demean one way.
Just watering for
Yeah. Your face is leaking. But that's not to demean one role over the other.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to know who has what role and let them live that role.
Yeah.
and you've let me lead and you've let me try so many new things. And I feel like I've tried to be supportive of anything you've ever wanted to do as well.
Yeah.
If you've ever had an idea, something you wanted to, adventure out and do, I try to be a strong proponent of you having some independence and growing yourself. Would you agree to that?
Yeah. And honestly, like one of the big things about me is how I was raised. I was raised in a considerably like rich middle class household. And, I've always been able to have a lifestyle that's comfortable. And as an adult, there's, especially in our marriage, there's not a lot of things that I ask for because
No,
I'm
it's not.
just content with what I have.
I beg you to ask for things sometimes because you never ask for
Yeah.
anything.
And I mean, I grew up with getting all of the toys and all of the experiences and just, I never had to ask for anything. And so now I just kind of live with contentment. Like I'm good with whatever you give me, and I don't really have to ask for anything because you are so good at providing for us anyways. Like you're such a headstrong, like go-getter kind of person. Plus you've lived on your own for so long that you know how to provide for yourself, and I don't have to take care of you. Like you take care of me.
Yeah.
And
I feel honored to take care of you,
yeah.
honestly, because you take care of me in an emotional way, and it's something I really need. I need to be able to rely on you, and you give me that. And so if I can help you rely on me, I'm happy to.
Yeah. And sorry, there's just, I don't know. It's really cool to see, like going back to like the way that we grew up, like two totally different worlds, and then just coming together, and learning from each other. Like we didn't know each other very long before we got married.
No, I mean, we dated for a total of 3 months.
Yeah. And then you proposed, and then
We were engaged for another 3 months, and then we got married.
Yeah. And it just, it took me a long time to get used to your family. And I mean, you getting used to my family, I guess, was okay. But
It was back and forth. Yeah.
yeah. And it just, I don't know. I've learned a lot from you and your family and like how you interact. Like, it's just, oh, I don't know why I'm getting emotional about this now. Like, I don't know. I've learned so much from you, and
This is just brag on Rob hours. This really is turning into.
I don't know.
No, I think that's another good point to make. And for a successful relationship, a successful marriage is to dote on each other
Yeah.
anytime you get the chance.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've ever met someone longer than 10 minutes who hasn't heard about my wife, because I never shut up about you.
Yeah.
Because you're my best friend, and you mean the world to me, and we're buddies. Is kind of a thing, So what we always tell each other, we don't just say I love you. What do we say?
I love you and I like you.
I love you and I like you. And that's something big.
Yeah.
A lot of people get into relationships and they just love each other. They don't necessarily like each other. They just love each other.
Yeah.
And maybe that works for some people, but I would reckon that it's better to really be in love with your best friend, someone you really, really like. But yeah, we knew each other pretty short amount of time, and then we got married, and we were only 21. We were just babies. We're both from the South, and that's relatively common, I guess, in the South. I'm from a very small town. You're from a pretty decent sized city. And we tried to really combine, I'd say, our outlooks on life. And we're both Christians, and so we were able to kind of combine faith pretty easy.
Yeah.
But I would say that in the beginning of our relationship, there was definitely some rocky moments.
Oh yeah.
Where we loved each other, we enjoyed each other, but I would say that you had so much emotion that you had to deal with. And maybe this is a guy and girl thing, but I was just like, okay, we'll get over it. Now I kind of recognize that emotion isn't necessarily a bad thing, And it's actually really healthy to kind of have some of that emotion. And it makes sense to have some of that emotion and work through it.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of anger. You know, I was a young guy. I had quite a bit of anger that I had to work through.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy that nothing physical. And well, we've never really yelled at each other. Like we don't yell and scream at each other.
No.
We respect each other that much, at least when we're angry.
Yeah.
I want to say maybe we've yelled at each other twice, and I don't think either one of us liked the way that felt.
No.
And so we pretty much back off of that, and we respect those boundaries
Yeah.
relationally.
Yeah. I remember whenever we lived at Fort Leonard Wood, and like, how do I explain this? It was whenever your sister and your stepdad and like all of them were like coming to live in the same area. And, I was just so like, I was so upset because I just wanted it to be us.
Yeah.
I was really big on, I come from a heavily religious background. And so, I was really heavy on, a man separates from his family to join his wife. And I mean,
that's true.
I still am kind of like that today, but, I was able to kind of, over a lot of time, like, just accept your family the way that they are and love them. And, that's really taken a big chunk of, like, what's shaped me as, like, your wife and even being a mom, how I raise my son. Like, I want him to love people who he doesn't truly understand right away. And, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. My eyes. Um, gosh, I don't know. You have really changed my life. And something that I want to add is it's okay to kind of step back from like situations, because whenever you say that, I get really emotional. And there's times where, I do sit in my emotion, and it's taken me a long time to be like, yeah, I am sitting in this, and actually accepting that, hey, I need to get out of this. Because at the beginning of our marriage, like, I used to let that just control me. Like, I was so anxious, so depressed, so, just like my mental health was like my identity pretty much. And it just took over my life at the first part of our marriage. It didn't help that we didn't see each other and our working schedules were like
complete opposite. Yeah, we'd get to see each other for what, maybe a couple hours a day.
Yeah,
maybe. So it really felt like we were dating still for the first 2 years of our relationship, because I would work overnight at the PMO, and then you would work during the day at the barber shop, and I'd be sleeping, you'd be sleeping, and we'd just be missing each other.
Right. It's like, it was really a rough couple years.
But we figured out what the really good brand of shades blinds are for your bedroom. That was something we figured out.
Right.
Because I need all that light to be blocked out.
Yeah, and then the blackout curtains.
That's what I meant. Yeah. But I think I might have taught you how to kind of like get out of that funk, but you really taught me to have patience. Because I am a very much go 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 kind of person, right? And you have, in order to not hurt you, I've had to learn to slow down, figure out whatever you have to do to just slow down and let you, go your speed. Because what I have going on is not always the most important thing, right? Sometimes the most important thing is keeping the peace between us. And so when I want you to get out of the house right now, and you're taking a little bit of extra time doing the makeup, doing the hair, and you just chopped all your hair off. So that's a little quicker now. So I appreciate that. You've taught me to have that patience so that I don't get upset with you, and then you're not upset with me, because I really just value our peace time, And over the years, that's probably the biggest thing that you've taught me, is just to slow down. And now with my blood pressure being what it is, I really have to slow down, or I'll get myself in trouble.
Yeah.
and you'll be unhappy with me.
Yeah.
You'll force feed me blood pressure medication.
Yeah. And I also think that that's really good. All of the stuff that we've learned, like we're able to, teach our son, like, hey, you can sit in this for a little bit, but whenever,
You can process this.
like we're not going to push you out of it right away and tell you to get over it. You can sit here and figure out, you know,
What is this emotion?
what you're going through
Yeah.
and just kind of, you know, is it frustration? Is it sadness? Is it anger? Like,
And why?
we can work through it like together. But then whenever you feel ready to, move on from it, let's just get out of it and, let's have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think that's really going to help him, especially as a man, like, because I feel like I've learned a lot from like how the male brain works.
I'm sure.
How my emotional female brain works. And just raising a little boy, I feel like that is going to help him a lot. Kind of understand, how his emotions work. And, even anger. I know that men are naturally more angry than women.
Quite.
And, even whenever he does have like temper tantrums and, he's going into the terrible 2 phase.
Oh, I'm not
now,
ready.
And
I'm not ready for it.
and it's just, we have to have a lot of patience with him. And honestly, I'm so excited to see what we can teach him. Yeah.
Well, you're a great teacher for him. Like I've been so impressed. I mean, we were from the point where he just randomly started counting, and he counted to 2. He's a year and a half. He's not even a year and a half old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's a year and a half old actually today.
Oh, actually today?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
He's a year and a half today. That's awesome. But he started counting 1, 2, and meaning something, not just like repeating, but like he saw 2 guitars and he said 1, 2, and he counted them. To from there to every time I'm helping him have a bath, I'm learning something new that he knows, like up, down, open, shut. It's so I'm just so impressed, and it's because of you, because you have been such a great teacher.
Yeah.
And while I'm at the office editing wedding videos and photos, you're with him day in and day out, just teaching him what it is to be a person. And he's kind of figuring that out, and you're helping him curb, like that anger or like that happiness, like you're helping him figure out what to do with himself and all of his emotions, and you're just teaching him, and it's so brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so great to see what you're doing.
Thank you.
Like I might be making the money, but you're making our kid.
Yeah.
You're building him every single day, and it's so impressive. So let's talk a little bit real quick about what it takes to have a successful marriage. If you could give a couple of points, what do you think is really important? And you can take a second to think.
Well, the first thing off the top of my head is like, don't be afraid. Sorry.
You're fine.
Don't be afraid to just jump into being married. Because like if you have been in a relationship with somebody for less than a year and everything feels right about that relationship and you guys are getting along great and you just have that connection, I really feel like something that, I don't know if it's helped us, but like we got married like that.
Yeah.
We didn't wait a year, 2 years to get engaged. We got engaged really quickly compared to other couples. And I feel like that's honestly really helped us because like having each other to rely on and grow with, it's like literally we are 2 trees and like our roots just kind of like became like this. And it's
So would you say that because we got engaged at a young age, we were still very teachable, and so we were willing to learn what it was to really have a good marriage because we wanted it to last.
Yeah.
We knew going into it that we were getting married young.
Yeah.
Right. We were probably the first. I know the first of my friends to get married.
Mm-hmm.
I think still actually the only one of my friends to be married.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about your friend group. Was any of your friends married when we got married?
Um, honestly, I didn't have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of like
Well,
my
the
friends
girls of the salon.
yeah, there were a few.
Yeah.
But they had kids and like they were like married for a long time or but yeah,
So we were
few.
we were young, right? And just out of high school,
Mhm.
college, hair school, basic training. We were both very much in a role where we were willing to keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what is. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what you're saying is be teachable.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to get married and get in this relationship. Just make sure you're teachable along the way.
And humble yourself too. Like make sure that be teachable. That's kind of a good way to explain it. It's just, you know, learn things from each other.
Yeah.
And I really think that has made us and our marriage stronger than like of like people that I've seen like from our friend groups and stuff like that. I just think that us learning things from each other and actually taking the advice and the lessons that we give each other,
Yeah.
I really think that that's made us really strong.
Well, a big part of that's communication, right? And as cliche as it is to say that communication's such an important thing, it just is.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're communicating, you're wrong about what you're saying, right? Not you in general, not you specifically, just in general, people. Like you're wrong about what you're communicating. And in that communication, allow yourself to be wrong.
Yeah.
But at least you're communicating.
Yeah.
And during that communication, if it's discovered that you are wrong, be humble, be teachable, and adjust. I think you're really right. Like just on your point that being teachable and humble is probably the biggest deal because as long as you're teachable, then maybe you'll communicate because you have to learn to communicate in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
We have to learn each other's love languages. And that's a big thing, I would say, is love languages.
Well, and you're not just marrying, like going back to the family aspect, like we're not just marrying each other, we're marrying each other's families too. And like I said before, like it took me a lot of time to really understand like how your family works and how they communicate and how they, love each other and joke with each other.
My family is an absolute mess.
And
I love them. You love them. They're a mess.
Yeah. And it's just like I've learned a lot from them. And they're not perfect, but they're loyal as mess. Like
they love each other.
They love each other. And, I really love that about them. Like that they are there for each other no matter what.
Yeah. As much as we might get all ticked off at each other, like we're still there for each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say communication, humility, being teachable. What else do you think is important? What's helped us?
Love languages could be one, is learning how to love each other.
Yeah.
And, at first I wasn't a very touchable person. Like I was very, like there's touch is a love language. And it's not that I didn't want you to touch me. It's just, and even as a mom, like I have days where I'm touched out.
Oh yeah. Well, today was one of those days. You're like, just don't touch me. And I was like, I want to hug you.
Yeah.
And you're like, don't touch me.
Yeah. It's a battle some days, but
well, Isaac is always on your feet and just like, I get you get touched out. I can understand how that can happen.
I just like, there's some days where I'm like, I just don't want you to touch me. But there's also some days where like, even though you're touched out, he still needs you to like be there for him. And like, you just rub his back or hold his hand or do something that shows him that you love him.
You said you were touched out, and then what, an hour later, we were literally cuddling on the floor watching Cars with Isaac.
Yeah.
Like, you went out of your way to make sure that I was still feeling loved.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But also vice versa, guys. Like, if you come home from work, right, and you feel just socialed out, you don't want to talk to anybody, but she still needs you to be there for her. Like you're very much a touch person now. You didn't used to be, but you still probably are still more of words of affirmation and quality time. And so, if I come home from a long day of editing, and I just don't want to have anything to do with you, like that's not going to make you feel very loved. I've got to spend time listening to you, talking to you. That's one of the reasons I actually enjoy our coffee in the morning, because I feel like that's a good time for us to just have a moment and chat. And it could be about nothing, or it can be about the newest Marvel movie. We could nerd out, or we can just talk about the weather for 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
But we have to make that time to pay attention to each other. So communication, love language, I feel almost falls in that communication, because it's not exactly verbal all the time.
Yeah.
But it's still communication. Humility, being teachable, and I would just say maybe having a similar foundation, right?
Yeah.
You and I had a very similar foundation in our religion, Christianity, right? We've grown a lot together from that, which is another big thing, I think, is grow together.
Yeah.
We have changed views. We have adopted new views. We have learned a lot. We've also forgotten a lot.
Yeah.
But we started together and grew from a place, and I think that's really important as well.
I think something else that, not a lot of couples get this opportunity, but like newly married couples that, they don't have kids yet, like please take the time to spend time together before you have kids.
Yeah. If it's an option, absolutely do that.
I think that's a big one. We waited 5 years to have Isaac.
Yeah, we planned on it too.
We planned on, being married 5 years, and then having Isaac. The grandparents weren't so happy about that, but we made it a priority in our marriage to take time for each other. And I really just think that the timing worked out good, because, we were married and then we took some time. We actually got stationed in South Korea, and then we had some time there. And then we came home, bought our house, and then we had Isaac 2 years later.
We didn't even start trying until we came home and bought our house. Like the entire first 5 years, we didn't. We were just having fun together.
Yeah, it technically took 7 years for Isaac, because it didn't.
Yeah.
We bought our house and then it took another 2 years, but
year and some change to make them happen, because lesson for everybody. Just because they say so in school, just because you put that thing there without that thing on it, doesn't mean you're going to have a kid. And from a married couple who is trying, it took a hot minute.
Yeah, but we are so happy that it worked out, and he has been such a blessing. I love him so much.
Yeah, but I think that's a lot of really good points to help make a strong marriage.
Yeah.
Of course, there's so many more. Obviously, finances. Try to make sure you have a strong financial situation to where you're not stressed out about it all the time.
Well, and to kind of piggyback off of that is like date each other still.
Yep.
Don't just, save the dating for when you're dating, like date your spouse.
And that's easy at the beginning of a marriage too, right? Because you were just married, or you were just dating, you were just engaged.
Yeah.
And it's easy to carry that over to the beginning of the marriage, but 7-8 years in, are you guys still having fun together? And I think we actually maybe had a conversation about this a couple months ago, where we were like, when's the last time we've been on a real date? Because we hang out. We're best friends. So
we call them hangouts.
Yeah, we're just having fun together. We might be going to the mall, but we're not considering it a date. So I think it's actually really important to intentionally have a date, not just a hangout. You planned last month. You planned a surprise date for me. You took me to the Civic Center Music Hall, and we saw Les Mis, which was a lot of fun, even though like the Civic Center is so dark, and we were up in the nosebleeds, so I was like tired and trying not to fall asleep because it was relaxing. But now it's my turn, and I'm going to plan a surprise date for you this month. But we have to be absolutely intentional to date and not just hang out.
Yeah.
Because we're best friends, and I feel like that's easy to fall to.
Yeah. And dates don't always have to cost money. You can do at-home dates too. You can do like a game night or a movie night, or like a walk in the park or something.
I like that little stick thing we got with the little plastic cylinder with all the date night ideas on it. There was one, I don't know if I told you about it, that said crash someone else's party that you don't know and pretend to be a guest that no one else knows.
Oh gosh.
And, as wedding vendors, I feel like it's a pretty easy thing to do. I bet, I bet I know a couple of venue owner friends who would help us with that. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so do some adventurous stuff too.
Yeah.
Maybe get yourselves into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Keep it spicy a little bit.
Yeah.
Have some fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel pretty happy just to leave that there. What about you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had a brain shut off moment.
And rebooting. Yeah, we're good. No, I feel like we've touched on quite a couple things that really help a marriage, really help a strong relationship.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about more as time goes on. I find it very fitting that even though going forward, most of the time it's probably me talking to other people on this podcast, I think it's very fitting that you are here with me to start this off.
Yeah.
Because you helped me start off everything in my life right now.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, and of course, obviously, we'll do this some more. And you're going to be taking care of our boy so that I can, chat with people and, kind of help introduce, I want to introduce wedding planners.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about what it takes to plan a wedding. I want to talk about DIY weddings, destination weddings, elopements. I want to talk about all things wedding, but I also want to talk to some people about their relationships. Like we have a couple lined up who are entrepreneurs who own a coffee shop,
Mm.
and I want to talk to them about their journey as a married couple and what that's been like for them.
Mhm.
I have a gentleman who's lost his wife who is willing to talk about the pain of that relationship and coping and coming back to life through that.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of other friend vendors, guests that I want to talk about relationships and just all things weddings.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate you getting to, be the first person, and I love you. Woogity. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you when we see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Come talk with me, stay and watch the day grow old. I've been waiting for the moment.